Whoa, there I am. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Friday edition of Tyngsborough TV Live. This is, of course, the Friday wrap-up where we bring on a special guest every week to talk about something that's going on in town. Also, I try to give you a bunch of news, whatever's left over from the week. We didn't do a Monday news because obviously this week was the holiday. Love holidays. They always goof me all up. I don't know. It seems like the longest week when it's a holiday week. But anyways, that's just me. So I'm Town Media Director Steve Brogan. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget that you can watch this broadcast on a multitude of places that we share it out to. Facebook, YouTube, TyngsboroughMA.gov on our live video on demand and streaming service. And you can also watch it here in town on Comcast 8 and Verizon Channel 29. Also, if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, feel free to chime in. You can ask questions with our assessor here. I'm sure you'll have lots of interesting questions for her. It's an interesting job, the assessor job. So
it is. I do. I enjoy it.
Yeah, it's a cool gig. You kind of get an interesting take on the town, and you get to see a lot of interesting details. I think it's kind of a underappreciated job here in town. So we're going to chat with Lauren in just a little bit. And before I get to that, I've got a whole bunch of news that I just want to throw at you really quickly because there's a whole bunch of it, and we'll talk about it again at the end because there's literally I have like a list. It's insane how much stuff is here. First of all, election papers. If you want to run for office here in town, I've given you the list. I'll talk about that again later on today. I don't want to belabor that right now, but you have to pull your papers by March 22nd, and they're due back by March 26th, and you need 50 signatures. First round of excise taxes went out. That was on 2/8. Actually, that's a little old, but they're due on March 11th at this point, so you should have those at this point. Get them in if you don't want to pay a late fee. And we'll talk about excise too because you have some interesting info on that.
We do.
That'll be good. The Shamrock Ball is going to be on March 16th over at the Tyngsborough Elementary School. Check tyngsboroughrec.com for that information. Also on March 1st from the rec department is a movie night that they're doing at Old Town Hall at 7 p.m. on March 1st. They're doing Mary Poppins Returns, provided she can get a copy of the thing because I guess it comes out like the day before or something. So also the Rain Barrel program is happening on April 6th. If you want to take part in that, go to the greateramericanrainbarrel.com and you can find the town of Tyngsborough, and you can sign up and purchase a rain barrel at a discounted rate. They're actually really cool too. They come with all the kit and everything. Really neat little program, and they'll be picked up at the health fair on April 6th. So you can pick up your rain barrel and you can go to the health fair at the same time. So pretty cool. As I mentioned, the health fair, April 6th, that's coming up. I'll talk more about that in the future. Also, yard waste pickups coming up May 10 and May 24th, so mark your calendars for that. Household Hazardous Waste Day is June 1st. The Board of Health has a vacancy, so if you're interested in running for the Board of Health, the vacant position, that former member Jonathan Reaney was on. They're trying to fill that position at least in the interim until the election comes up this actually next month, or in a couple months anyways, rather. So if you wanted to jump on that, maybe get your feet wet and see how that goes. There's a surplus auction being done by the town. There's a number of job openings. I'll go over those later on. There's a whole bunch of job openings from library to sewer department and a couple others as well. What else we got here? Oh, the master plan visioning session is coming up, the second part of a 4-part series that they're doing. All this is culminating in a final master plan for the town, which will last a decade or so, give or take. So that's happening on March 13th over at Old Town Hall. That will not be televised because it's not really a televisable thing. It's just basically a big group of people at a bunch of different tables talking. So, but we'll be having some of those folks on to talk about what's going on, what'll be discussed. There's also a survey that'll be coming out soon, and we'll talk about that soon. Cyclical inspections have now just wrapped up. I just found out. Yes. However, they are doing callbacks, so we'll talk more about that in just a minute. Yeah, if you're wondering who those people were that were knocking on your door, that was the cyclical inspections. That's a tough word.
Yeah, it is.
I have a hard time with that one. Also, some exciting news, at least from my end. We've got a new channel that we're going to have very, very soon. Actually, next Tuesday to be exact. The town of Tyngsborough has gotten Verizon to turn on our education channel, which was defunct for a little while. It was being unused. So we're actually having that turned back on and getting the equipment installed next Tuesday. So we'll have an education channel on the Verizon side, and now I'm just working with Comcast to get that done on the other side too. So at least Verizon people will be able to see everything rather. So that's pretty cool. Also on April 6th, I swear I'm getting to the end of this. On April 6th, there's an e-recycle event being done by the Girl Scout Troop 6916 and Scout USA, formerly known as Boy Scouts of America, I think. Troop 46, they're doing an e-recycle event. I don't have all the details on that. I just got the basics from the woman who's putting it together, but I'll have more information on that. But mark your calendars, April 6th. They're going to be doing an e-recycle day. I think, actually, they might be doing that at the health fair. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what's going on, if I had to guess. And also the Sherburne Trails that everybody, I think, in town knows about. They've been remarked very nicely, in fact. There's new markers on all the trails so you don't get lost, which has happened to me before. It's super fun. You end up on the roadway and in these weird places like, where am I? But they've been relabeled, so all the trails have nice little markers on the trees, and apparently it's very easy to find your way around now, so that's really cool. And they did a little map on it. And lastly, May 4th, 2019, mark your calendars. If you've lived in town for any period of time and you went to the Winslow School, this will interest you. They're doing the Winslow School reunion put on by the Historical Commission here in town, and they're trying to get everybody who's ever gone to the Winslow School who is still above ground to to go to this thing. Bring your photographs. They'd love to see that stuff. They've been doing collecting photographs and scanning them in and adding them to a big folder of all the Winslow School classes and people that have been in classes and all these different things. So, so if you have photographs from the Winslow School, they'd also love to see that. You can find them on Facebook. You can also contact them here at Town Hall. But if you go to Facebook, it's Tyngsborough Historical Commission on Facebook. So yeah, you can check them out there. You send them a message, and you can send pictures back and forth, get email addresses, and all that fun stuff. So, anyways, that was my spiel. So it's a lot of news. So as I said, my guest this morning is Miss Lauren Wokel, who is our town assessor. It's a very interesting job, I think. And like I said in the beginning, I think it's kind of an understood. I don't know if that's the word, right?
No, absolutely.
Underappreciated, maybe. You know. But it's an interesting job because you keep track of basically everybody's property values. I assume you also keep track of like property lines and the sizes of the properties and things like that, right?
Yes, yep. We have our assessor's maps, which is all derived from plans and deeds. So we track the property valuations and all based on market valuation. But we do many other things too. We deal with business, personal property tax, excise taxes, senior real estate tax exemptions.
Okay.
If people have large tracts of land and want to protect that, there's different chapter land protections, chapter 61 for forestry, agricultural, recreational programs that we're involved in.
Oh, okay.
So there's many different things. I think people just associate the assessor's office with, well, they're dealing with the property taxes and our valuations, but there's many other things that we deal with on a daily basis.
So like a property like Sherburne where that's protected, did that go through the assessor's office to become a protected piece
well,
of
yes, or that would have a conservation restriction, but the other programs I'm talking about are privately owned properties.
Oh, I see. Okay.
That if you have a minimum of 5 acres or 10 acres, that you can get a reduced tax rate on your land if you're protecting it or using it in forestry, agricultural, or recreational purposes.
Okay, I misunderstood you. Okay.
But yes, but then in that case, yeah, liens get put on the properties to protect the town, and then the town has the right of first refusal to purchase those properties.
Interesting. Yeah. So what is, I guess, just the basic, because I don't really quite understand it myself either, what is the basic job of the assessor? What does the assessor do for the town?
Well, the assessor is in charge of maintaining the property database because the property valuations are the basis of the tax base in town. So our responsibility is to have an accurate database in order to come up with fair and equitable assessments.
Okay.
And that's a big part of the cyclical inspection program that we just finished up this week. We're required once every 9 years to do a cyclical inspection of properties, and we're required by the Department of Revenue Division of Local Services. That department within the state oversees all the local assessing departments.
Okay.
So we go out and do inspections for properties for a number of reasons. Market value is our top thing. So we go out when properties sell, and we want to make sure that what someone purchased for a property, our data reflects what their purchase price was for.
Okay.
So that's very important. So we go out on sales, and then we go out and maintain building permits. So we get information from the building department, and then we follow up on the building permits to close it out. So if people are adding additions, finishing basements, renovating kitchens, those are all things that we're following up on.
Okay.
And then if neither of those two things take place, that's where the cyclical inspection comes in. So once every 9 years, and there are some of those properties that they're not pulling permits, they're not transferring, so we go and we make sure that the information we have on file is accurate.
Okay.
And in some cases, you know, we do find that people, you know, have finished basements that we haven't picked up on our property. But then in other cases, we can go out and people may have had decks and sheds and pools that they've removed and have not notified us. So those have remained on the property record card and they've been being assessed for those items. So those are good opportunities for us to catch that
interesting.
and clean that off of the card as well. So sometimes it can work in, you know, the property taxpayer's favor. I mean, and other times though, if something is done without a building permit, you know, then eventually we would end up finding it.
Okay. So if you don't pull a permit, or rather if you do pull a permit, that would trigger an assessor coming out to your house to take a look at things.
Yes.
And if you don't do any of those things, then you're just going to be, you're going to see the cyclical inspector come through.
That's right. And people are concerned. We do get, you know, questions about it that, you know, you're not required to allow the assessor into the home, and that is true. If you do file an abatement application, though, that is one of the requirements, is part of the application process, is to allow an inspection of the property.
Okay.
If it's not allowed at the time an abatement's been applied for, the taxpayer can apply to the appellate tax board if the assessors deny, but then that will be their first course and say, well, you need to allow an inspection.
Okay.
So, you know, at some point or another, you know, an inspection would be required.
Okay.
And then now, too, we do follow up with the properties that are listed for sale, too. We have availability of all the listings. So that gives us a lot of information, too, on the properties, so that stuff's available online now. So,
so do you actually go to, like, say, you know, Realtor.com or something like that, for example, to look at the photographs of a certain property?
Yes, I have a service, and I get emailed all of the new listings when properties are sold, too. I just got a couple today, and I just mark my records that they're sold, because I get that notification prior to the Registry of Deeds notifying us.
Okay.
But I follow up on those all of the time. And it's good, too, to just track with the market. You know, you get the listing prices, and then if things are being reduced. And then I verify that information. I print out the listing, put it with our record card, and then when properties do sell, we do follow up with a sales verification questionnaire. So all of the new homeowners get one of those, return it back to us, and we review it with our data, and then we would follow that up with an inspection.
Okay.
And then, too, if people are uncomfortable about it still, even this morning I've already verified 2 properties right over the telephone with the property owner. And it might not be that they're, you know, uneasy with someone coming into the home, but their schedule just doesn't permit, you know, the time to do the inspection.
Oh, I see. Yep. That makes sense.
So I have no problem, you know, doing that over the telephone with someone.
Do you find you get a lot of pushback from people, you know, not wanting to let you in their homes?
We haven't had a lot of pushback. We don't get a lot of response.
Okay.
So that's, you know.
I would consider that pushback.
Well, that's pushback,
sort of,
but not like, not in your face pushback.
No, right. And
like
I don't mean it like that, right?
Not coming in the property. But we do get less and less response. And I think it's just what's going on in the world today. People are very nervous and skeptical about people coming out to the property, and I totally get that. And you know, you see it on the news, people impersonate people, and it's very scary.
Yes, definitely.
And in the first day our inspector was out in the field, I got a phone call. It might have been one of his first inspections, and I told the woman, you know, it was very nice that she contacted us. He goes out with a letter from our department. The police department is aware, you know, that he's out in the area with his car description and whatnot, because it is scary. So
yeah,
it's
I've
always
heard the
good.
calls on the scanner when people are calling and saying, "Oh, there's somebody in my neighborhood knocking on doors," and turns out to be the inspector. Yes, but people just don't quite know. Let me ask you this: so you've mentioned some of the things that would make your taxes go down. So you remove a deck, or you remove a pool, or a shed, like you said, anything like that. What are some of the things that wouldn't cause your taxes to go up? So, like, if I replaced a toilet, even though I'd have to go pull a permit, would that trigger the assessor having to come out? You know, little things like that, or is it just big projects like a renovation?
It's big projects, renovations, like siding, windows, roofing. You know, permits are all required for those items, but those are not major things that we're looking for. We go out for the bigger items, major renovations, kitchens, bathrooms, the finished basements, the additions, the pools. Basically, anything that's going to add square footage is really what's going to make your assessment go up.
Okay. Now, how about on the flip side? So say I live in a house in town, and I've lived in it for 40 years or whatever, and I haven't done a thing to it. does my value in terms of like, does it depreciate because like the wear and tear on things, you know, items in the house,
yeah,
things
that
like that?
would be in the overall depreciation, the condition of the property. And
Okay.
those are things that we're looking at too, because some people, you know, will do the course of the renovations throughout the years, and then they're maintaining it. Where others, maybe things have been let go, and so that's going to affect the market value of the property. So if a house is, you know, 30 years old and, you know, it's at the end of its life for its roof and the windows need repair, well, that house isn't going to sell for the same price that, you know, a home for its same age has had all these renovations. So it affects the marketability of the property, and then we in tune follow that market value.
Okay. And now the only way you would know that these things are have not been updated is by doing these inspections, I assume, right? Or do you assume some of these? Okay. So
well, no, correct, because if they're not have any building permits outstanding on the property, we're not going to know. So a physical inspection out to the property, we're going to see, okay, well, the roof, say, for instance, is aged, or the windows or the siding needs to be replaced, you know, things of that nature. So a lot of times you do need that physical inspection.
okay. See, that's one of those things I feel like people should know about, because that might reduce some of the apprehension of, oh, I don't want to let government into my house. You know what I mean? If you haven't done anything, you have nothing to hide, let's say, it actually could work in your favor, because you know, if you haven't done anything to your house, hopefully you did some upkeep, but
Well,
if you haven't done much, you might pay less in taxes, or you pulled the pool, for example. That's a great example of that.
Yes, and people, you know, don't realize that they don't need to notify, or they don't need to say a permit to tear something down, or to notify the tax assessor that, oh my gosh, I've been getting billed for this pool and I've had it down for 5 years. So little things like that, you know, do make a difference. And when we've been going around, for the most part, we're not finding big changes with these cyclical inspections. If anything, it's really floor covering.
Oh, okay.
A lot of the information we have on file is like interior carpet, flooring, and a lot of people are going to hardwood
Okay.
or laminate today.
Yeah.
So those are, you know, little things that we're fixing, but it's nothing significant.
So let me ask you this then. If I have, say I had all linoleum in my house, or carpet, actually, we'll go with carpet, and I changed it all to hardwood, what kind of increase in my taxes might I expect? Obviously, this is ballpark, but like what kind of thing
you're
might
going
I
to have
see?
a very probably slight increase in the valuation,
Okay.
maybe a few $1,000s, if anything. And with our tax rate at $16.93 per thousand, you're talking over the tax bill minimal.
Okay.
You know, so
So you
you're
might
not
not
going to
see
see a significant. Anything significant is going to be in square footage.
Okay. So that's the kicker, is square footage. If you're adding space,
Yes.
maybe finishing an attic or finishing a basement, or
Yes,
you know,
or
doing
putting
that.
a room on, or a garage on with a room above, that sort of thing. That's where your major increase in value is going to take place.
Interesting. And I feel like that, for me anyways, that's what people, one of the reasons I would guess that people wouldn't want to let you in a home is because, like, oh, I renovated the basement and I don't want them to know, so I don't want to pay, you know.
Well,
that could
and we do come across some of those, but then we have some too that people have had basements, then they've ended up with water problems, and then they've removed the finish, which we don't know about.
Okay.
So, I mean, there are those situations as
Right.
well.
Well, and I wonder if it makes me wonder if they had pulled a permit in the first place to do that work, they might have found out before they did the work that they would possibly get water, and so
True.
keep an eye on that. There is good reasons for these permits sometimes.
Right.
Talk to me a little bit about the market value, because this is something that I feel like probably gives you a headache, or at least gray hairs. Not that you have many gray hairs or any, actually, but I imagine that drives you nuts, because market values go up and down constantly. I mean, look at, you know, what happened in '08, but then the build up to 2008, and then since then things have gone kind of just haywire,
Yes.
up and down. So how does that, I guess, how much aggravation does that give you in trying to figure out what a true market value of a house is?
Well, we review all of the property sales on a yearly basis. Now, with our assessments, we do lag behind about a year to a year and a half at times, because we're using a complete year's worth of sales. So, for instance, for
okay.
fiscal year 19, our current fiscal year, the assessments are based on what was selling during calendar year 2017, because the property tax assessment date is January 1st. So we look at all of the properties that have sold within calendar year 2017. Then we break them down into many different to groupings. We do them by style, we do them by size, by age, by neighborhood. And we run sales analysis studies against them. So we take our assessment, look at the sale price, and we come up with a sales to assessment ratio. and our ratio needs to be within 10% of market value. So we can be, to 90% to 110 to comply with the state regulations.
Oh, okay.
So if consistently, and again, we look at the sales, we want to make sure our data is accurate. We take out unqualified sales, so something between family members.
Where they sold it for $1 to each other or something.
Yeah, those are obviously disqualified. If someone, there had been a permit prior to the sale, so there had been a renovation done prior, so our assessment doesn't reflect the changes that property took place when it sold. Those get disqualified. If someone buys a property, say more at a lower price, then pulls permits after the sale, those are disqualified. So we're looking for true market value, between willing buyers, willing sellers, properly marketed. That's what's being used in the analysis period.
Okay.
And then if we look and say consistently, okay, our assessments are below the market, it's going to indicate we need to increase them to come within that level. And typically we fall in the lower range. We don't like to go up too high because then eventually they're going to come back down.
Okay.
So we try to stay between the 95% of market value.
Interesting. What about in a neighborhood, say you've got a nice neighborhood. I'll use Scribner Hill, for example. Say there's a house, not that this is actually true, but say there's a house in the middle of that neighborhood, which is a nicer neighborhood that is just absolutely falling apart, and then it sells. How does that goof up your numbers? I mean, is that something that maybe you kick out and say this is a different circumstance and
absolutely
shouldn't be applied? Because it would mess everybody else's valuations
up. It would,
up,
because
imagine, right?
that wouldn't be consistent of what other properties in that neighborhood are going to sell for.
So that would be another reason. Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay. Again, this is why I wanted to have you on, because I feel like there's a lot of little nitty-gritty things that if you understand them, one, you'd be more willing to just let them come through and do their inspections when they come out. But two, you have a better understanding of, well, this is why my taxes are a certain dollar figure, and maybe here's some ways you can, reduce them if possibly.
Right,
by
and I think a big part of it, like you said in the beginning, is like the department. A lot of what we do is misunderstood, and when people come into the office and ask questions, I mean, I think they definitely do get an education, and sometimes they leave. Maybe they don't get the answers that they want to hear, but they understand the process now.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, that's really cool. So another thing that you guys handle, you talked about abatements. And some of the ways that people can get basically tax breaks if they have, was it 5 and 10 acres where they use them for just like forestry? Was that what you said?
Yes, that would be programs for forestry. So if you've got, that has something to do with the state, you do a forest management plan, and you need a minimum 10 acres for that. And then there's also for agricultural and horticultural uses of land, and then recreational use.
So say I have 5 acres of land and I'm using it to just do a massive garden. Does that lower my taxes potentially, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Is if you meet that 5 acre minimum, and then but you have to produce produce sales of these. It's not like a garden for your own particular use.
Oh, okay. That's what.
So you have to have a minimum $500 worth of sales.
Which that would be pretty easy to get to.
Producing, say if you vegetables or things of that nature.
Oh, that's interesting. But the minimum is 5 acres on that. Okay. And it's not for personal consumption necessarily. No. You have to be selling something.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, very interesting. Okay. And now what about the forest management? You said it's got to be over 10 acres. Is that basically you're just leaving it in its natural state? Is that?
Yep, you leave it in its natural state, and then you have a management plan, which is, I think, a cutting plan that's done with the state forester. So that one's a little bit different. You deal with the state forester on that. You create a management plan on how to, maintain or thin out the area if you log it, whatever you may do. And then the management plan comes back to us, and then we reduce the assessment according to the land that's under that category.
Okay.
And those are annual applications that people file for. We don't have a lot of them here in town, but we do have some. And then, it protects the land from being, say, developed, for residential purposes. And then there is a lien on the property. And then, like I mentioned, the town would have the right of first refusal. So say that taxpayer decides, like, okay, I'm going to sell this land. Okay. The town can say, we want to buy it, and they would get that right of first refusal to pay the same at a market value, at to match a bona fide offer that would come on the property.
So once it's gone into that program, that's when the town would have first right of refusal on something.
Yes, because once the lien is placed on the property.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, I'm thinking about it up my way, but that's up in New Hampshire. But that's really fascinating. I didn't realize that. I'm actually a little bit fuddled on that one. Wow, that one caught me. Okay, so let's talk about let's talk about the excise stuff. So you mentioned that earlier, and people file abatements, right?
Yes, yeah. The office is very busy now with the excise tax bills being out, as you mentioned, and they're due March 11th, I believe. So people are coming in. If you don't have the vehicle any longer, you've moved, whatnot, you're eligible to receive a tax abatement, an excise tax abatement.
Okay.
There is some documentation that we need, which are questions all of the time. So we need to know what happened to the plate and what happened to the vehicle. So two things need to have occurred. The plate has to be transferred to another vehicle or canceled with the RMV.
Okay.
And then we would need documentation of those items, and then something needs to happen to the vehicle. So if the vehicle has been sold or traded, we need a copy of the bill of sale.
Okay.
If it has been involved in an accident and total loss, a statement from the insurance company stating it was totaled and the date.
What about if it's just like, say, sitting in your garage and you're not doing anything with it?
You're not entitled to an abatement.
Oh, okay.
And people are very confused and can get upset when that occurs, but you have to transfer a title of the vehicle and do something with the plates.
Okay.
Even though the registration is basically driving the bill, in order to get the abatement, you have to have also transferred title to the vehicle.
Okay. So automatically what I realized is you don't handle just properties. It's actual property. So
yes.
Vehicles. What else? What other kinds of things would you look at?
Well, we handle personal property tax. That's another thing that the office is busy doing now.
Okay.
All of the businesses in town are required to fill out a form of list every year annually.
Okay.
And that's due back to our office March 1st. So we're busy getting a lot of those in the mail. And personal property tax is a tax for businesses and for their items used in the conduct of their business.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So, their business items, their, equipment, machinery, inventory.
Is this
like
at-home businesses or brick and mortar or both?
Both.
Oh, okay.
We do have a minimum value threshold, so $1,000. Anything valued less than $1,000 doesn't receive a personal property tax bill.
Okay.
But $1,000 and up do get it. But also included in that are the utility companies, National Grid, gas company, Comcast, those all get personal property bills as well.
Oh, okay. So a computer or, like you said, a vehicle or something like that, a piece of machinery,
yes.
Those would all be personal property tax. Interesting. Okay. Let me just quickly reset for everybody. So this is our Friday wrap-up. This is Tyngsborough TV Live's Friday edition of the show where I bring on a special guest every week. Most times I'm successful. Lauren, unfortunately, wasn't able to outrun me, so I was able to get her on the show. No, she actually came willingly. She is our town assessor, though, so we're having a really interesting conversation about all the aspects of assessing, really, and sort of some of the misunderstandings and whatnot of assessing. That said, if you want to watch this broadcast, you can check it out on a multitude of places. So Facebook and YouTube, where we share it out to a whole lot of different pages. You can also chime in and ask questions if you'd like. You can also watch it on Comcast 8, Verizon 29 here in the town of Tyngsborough, and you can watch it on tyngsboroughma.gov on our live video on demand and streaming. And a quick side note, if you've been trying to watch video on demand programs, some of our past meetings and things that were just in the last couple of weeks, they are working now again. Thankfully, I finally got the company to fix that. So all that stuff is working, and all the last few meetings that happened, that's all been uploaded, so you can watch all of that stuff now. It's all available, and it actually should work better because they're now using an Amazon server. So Amazon seems to be great at everything. I'm not sure how they pulled that off, but hey, you know what? It's cool. So you can watch all that stuff again. And again, if you have any questions for myself or something you'd like me to get answered possibly, don't be afraid to send me an email, sbrogan@tyngsboroughma.gov, or you can send me a message through Facebook. I do the best I can to try to get the folks on who have the answers. Or go find the people and get answers from them if I can. So can't always get answers, but I do the best I can to try to figure things out for you. So if you're ever wondering about stuff, definitely feel free to ask me. And you can always call the department directly here at Town Hall, 649-2300, and I'm sure they'd be happy to talk to you and tell you all about cyclical inspections and whatever other questions you have.
Absolutely.
Very interesting stuff. So I want to get back to our conversation. Oh, and I was on the wrong camera the whole time. Okay, that's okay. I wanted to get back, though, because, again, as we mentioned in the beginning, the assessor's office is it's sort of a gray area, I feel like, in terms of what people understand the assessor does. We talked a bit about how you can potentially save money on your tax bill, which is obviously great. Everybody wants to save money on their taxes, and obviously there's reasons why you would pay more on taxes. I guess what are the percentages, rough numbers obviously, but in terms of people's taxes going up or down, like how likely am I to see my taxes go up versus down in town? It's a tough question, I'm sure.
Well, yes, because I mean, it depends. The valuation increased slightly this year, about 3%, but and then the tax rate came down.
Okay.
And that's not everyone's value increased. It all depends, on particular properties. So overall this year, there really wasn't a large increase, and it's all going to depend, of course, too, with the town's budget, where the tax rate ends up lying, coming out in the end, in the overall assessment. So
okay. So does
but
that
on average, it's been about 3%.
Oh, okay. All right. So does that give you a gauge for, say, how much renovation or construction is going on in town? Like, if the numbers seem to go up, your assessments go up quite a bit. Does that kind of give you an idea? Like, okay, a bunch of people have been doing a lot of renovations, or vice versa.
Well, not so much with the overall valuation per se. Yes, that's part of it.
Okay.
But more of it is going to be more to the market. Because there'd be a much smaller number of the properties that are being renovated, and what's contributing to the overall tax base. That's that's considered our new growth every year.
Oh, okay.
So that's something. New growth is anything that we've not taxed before, and we tax that up to June 30th each year is what we can qualify as our new growth.
Okay.
So that would be any new construction as well. So in all facets, commercial, residential, anything new. So that contributes significantly to what's going on.
Okay.
And that's all pretty much driven by the economy too. When things are good in the economy, and we are seeing that. You're seeing people making renovations, doing additions. We've got these construction projects going on in town now, which for a while things weren't happening because, the economy wasn't good. So
Yeah,
those are positive
The
things.
economy kind of stalled in 08, 09, and now it seems to be
Yes, and
chugging
especially
along pretty well.
Yeah, and especially on the commercial side. I mean, here in town, we see a lot of things are happening.
Okay. Interesting.
We've got the new pet hotel down the street that's pretty close to being completed. There's another industrial building up there off of Middlesex that's close to be completed. Mass Crane just did a big facility. The new sports center up there off
Right,
of
yeah,
Potash.
yeah.
So the daycare center over on Westford. So we've had a lot of commercial activity in that going on. The new storage facility up on the Nashua border, the granite business. There's another office building going up under construction over there across from them. And so there's a lot more going on the commercial side of things, which is
Excellent.
positive.
That is very positive. And that would, at some point, I imagine, lend to balancing off how much the property taxes would go up versus business commercial stuff, right?
Yes, that definitely helps to contribute. Right now we have a single tax rate because we don't have enough commercial industrial property to really do a shift in the tax rate. So then shifting it, you would make the increase the commercial rate for commercial industrial taxpayers and then, lessen for the residential taxpayers. But we have about 87-88% residential. So right now it doesn't make sense to do a shift because we'd be overburdening the commercial industrial businesses.
Oh, I see. Is there a state mandated cutoff? Like once you hit 20% commercial, you have to split it, or
no,
is it
you
just
don't.
up to the town?
It's up to the town. The selectmen, we do a classification hearing every year with the Board of Selectmen, and they determine what that rate is going to be, whether or not they want to shift. We provide them with the information from the assessments and the percentage of properties, and then they make that determination.
Okay, very interesting. Boy, see, I'm learning a lot today. This is really interesting. And you guys are lucky down here in Mass because you've got, living in Mass, that is, because you've got Prop 2.5 where your taxes only ever go up. Well, I mean, they can get voted to go higher, but 2.5%. In New Hampshire, we're getting whacked with like 10, 12%. It's nuts. Crazy. So you guys are definitely, you're doing okay, trust me. So what are some of the other things that folks come to the assessor's office for, i.e. like maybe smaller things that they come to you for maps, property lines, figuring out property lines, that kind of stuff too?
Yes, yep. Sometimes, I mean, you never know what kind of question will come through the door because if someone wants to try to put an addition onto their property or put up a fence, so they're looking at, they want to find their plot plan, they're assessing map. And we have the boundary lines that we can assist, with that information. Sometimes it could be a dispute with the neighbor, over lot lines and things like that. So we try to assist people with, determining where their property lines are.
Does that happen often?
No. Thankfully.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good thing. You guys are all doing well. Okay.
And we can't really get involved in those, neighbor disputes. I mean, we've had a few, and then really it's hard for the town to get involved. It would then be more of a land court issue, that they need
You're
to
just
go.
giving them here's the information, you do with it as whatever you want to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but one other thing I do want to mention as we get back to, we were talking about the property valuations, and there is an abatement period, and at this point now we've passed it, at the time we're doing this broadcast, but every year during the month of January, so when you receive your first actual tax bill, so that's the one that goes out as of January 1st, you have 30 days to file an abatement application for your real estate. So if you feel your real estate assessment is too high or there's something inaccurate, you have that opportunity to file. And we did have a few people this year that came in after the deadline, unfortunately. So
that's too bad.
And we can't accept it because we can't accept one and, not another. So there is a deadline for the reason. So that is something to keep in mind for everyone too, that you can contest your assessment if you don't believe if it's accurate.
Okay. So that's one thing I've definitely tried to mention as much as I can anyways, is the fact that you can do those abatements and the timing of them. So pay attention to, watch this broadcast. Obviously I want you to watch this, but the town website, tyngsborough.gov, they post all that stuff on the homepage when it starts happening.
Yes.
That cyclical inspections are happening, and obviously when abatements are available.
Right. And all the forms are available on our website as well. The other thing I want to mention, because we do have our personal real estate tax exemption. So those are for our senior taxpayers.
Oh, okay.
That it's age, ownership, income, and asset-based applications for exemption.
Okay.
So those are due to us April 1st. We do have the majority of them have already come in for this year, but if we can reach any new filers that haven't filed or they think they may be able to file, contact us, come to the office. We have a sheet with all of the qualification, the income and asset limitations, and you might be able to get an exemption off of the tax bill.
Interesting. So yeah, definitely let your friends and relatives, your senior obviously friends and relatives. 55, is that the cutoff
65.
age? Oh, 65, excuse me. Okay.
But we do have, there is a separate tax relief committee. So when people see their tax bills, there's a little box down below if you want to add a donation for the tax relief committee, and that helps people in town. They file a separate form with the committee. Those are due March 1st. Everything's got different dates here, but we accept them at the assessor's office. The assessors are not involved in it. Our chair of the board is on that committee.
Okay.
However, people who file for that usually do not qualify from the other state exemptions because their income may be just above what's allowed, or they may be under 65. So they can kind of qualify based on that program.
Okay.
And that is all funded through the donations on the tax bill.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I feel like you see donations on lots of things now. Donate $1 for this or that, and you never quite know where it's going really. But this is actually where that money,
and so that's where that goes, and then it's obviously based on available funds, and and then they'll look at it on a needs base, because usually it would be that there's obviously financial need, but there may be some kind of medical issue that someone's not able to work at this time, temporary, things like that. So it's another avenue for some taxpayers who may need some tax assistance.
Interesting.
To file. So those are due on March 1st. We have the applications available in our office, and we accept them as well, and then we pass them over to the committee to make, their decisions.
Okay.
But so the other senior exemptions, again, those are due April 1st, and so they're due to us April 1st, but you have pretty much all year to file. After July 1, the new fiscal year begins the process for the filing on them.
Okay. Do you know off the top of your head what the income threshold is in order to qualify?
They are on the lower side.
Okay.
For married couples, I want to say it could be around like $32,000.
Okay, so fairly low.
They are fairly low.
Fixed
however,
income folks generally probably would qualify for that.
Assets, we do not include the domicile, but checking, savings, CDs. So those are involved, and those are in the $60,000 range.
Oh, okay.
But we can take some exclusion if they're collecting Social Security. We can make a deduction for that. So there are some ways.
But you don't include the value of the home. That's would be a big one, and I would think probably would throw people. Like,
yes, absolutely.
Our house is worth too much. We can't,
Yeah, no, that asset is not included.
Okay.
So money's in the bank and, things like that, yes.
Very interesting. Okay, so lots of really interesting stuff. Again, if you guys are watching on Facebook, feel free to ask questions. Hi to everybody who's watching, by the way. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate that. What else did you want to talk about? What other kind of things are going on at the Assessor's Department?
Well, let's see. What else do we have going on? We mentioned our business personal forms of list, so those are all coming into the office. Then the other next thing that we'll be dealing with is for our commercial industrial properties. We send out an annual income and expense form, because that helps us determine valuation of those properties as well to find out that. So those are due April as well. So this time of year, a lot of the assessors' tasks are sort of cyclical, and it's sort of a roller coaster. You get to be very busy, then things slow down, and then you ramp up again towards the end of the year when we're finalizing values and setting the tax rate and whatnot. But we're busy, doing all the excise tax, and we'll be following up on, wrapping up our inspections for the 2018 sales, because 2018 sales become our basis for fiscal year 20 values.
Okay.
So we're, trying to wrap up those inspections as well. And then it'll be the springtime coming and getting out on the building permits, because as I mentioned, our growth as of June 30th, that's our important date. So I'll be out there making sure we get everything what's done as of that date.
I imagine that's when a lot of building starts happening anyways in the springtime.
Well, yes.
So that's when you're most active with that, it seems like, right?
Right. I mean, and we've had a mild winter, so that's kept people going all year.
That's true, yeah. Good point.
And then on my part of things is doing those types of inspections. I wait until it's closer to the June 30th. I don't want to be making multiple visits to properties that are unnecessary. So I'll wait closer to, that date and, okay, are we at 70% complete, 80% complete? And then the other thing too is we work very closely with the building department. Paul Welcome and he's got me on the occupancy permit now, which is a huge thing. So before he issues the occupancy permit, they need an assessor to come out and inspect and sign off.
Interesting.
So
that's a good way to kind of keep everything in check, basically.
Well, and especially too with the new construction, because a lot of times what was happening is the property would end up transferring, the new owner would get in, and we wouldn't be able to get in and do the inspection on that new construction. Because we would have to time it just right. If you're there, doing an inspection while it's under construction, then you're not getting all of the complete finishes as it gets to the end, because then, the units get locked up and,
So you wouldn't know if there was hardwood floors or molding everywhere or something like that.
Right, exactly. And then doing it before, at that process, you're not inconveniencing anybody, as a new homeowner or anything like that. And then the contractors are out there, finishing up the job. So that works out very well. And then that also helps for us, because the other thing that we issue are supplemental tax bills. And those are based on new construction or any large addition that increases the building value by 50%. And so those tax bills are calculated based on the date of occupancy to the end of the fiscal year.
Okay.
So, for instance, I think we just sent our first batch out for fiscal 19, and I think it could have been close to $60,000.
Oh, wow.
So.
Okay. So this is not chump change. This is decent amounts of money.
Oh, yes.
Let me ask you this. I'm a builder. I decide I want to build 20 units or something like that. When do property taxes start getting paid? Is it from the date of occupancy, or is it from the minute that a shovel gets in the ground?
Well, it would be the minute construction is ongoing, we'd be assessing. But our final assessment date is for new construction is June 30th.
Okay.
So, for instance, we have the Merrimack Tyngsborough Crossing down the road there, the condo complex there. There's many units ongoing there. So I will go in there, and as of June 30th, there are a dozen units under construction. Each one will be at a different stage. So one could be at 10%, just have the foundation. The other has, 30%. The other could be 60%. So they would all be assessed based on what each individual unit's stage is as of that June 30th date.
I see. Okay. So, all right. That answered my question then. Okay, good.
And then when the occupancy permit is issued, so if one was issued today, for instance, it would be assessed at full value as of today through June 30th of 2019. So you'd capture that small window. Whereas before, and that's a state law that, the towns are implementing, you actually have to opt out of it to not do these assessments.
Oh, okay.
But the town would lose out on that money.
Oh, interesting.
So it would be, so say it was assessed at 60% complete the prior June 30th, then an occupancy permit came in after, say in February, you'd lose out on that additional tax revenue until July 1st, the following fiscal year, you'd pick it up. So it's a way to get the full valuation as of that occupancy date.
Okay. So essentially you're able to charge whatever the completion amount is to that point.
Yes.
On the assessment. And then from the date of completion or date of occupancy, that's when you can charge the full value, and you get that for the remainder of the fiscal year.
Right. And we shouldn't say full value. It's the difference from, you know, the 100% valuation minus what was assessed prior.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So you would get assessed the difference.
Gotcha. So it's basically, it's a way to keep it fair.
Yes.
And it also, you know, the town gets their money because it's a finished property, so it should be getting taxed technically, right?
Yes, exactly.
Very interesting. Okay. There's a lot to this. Boy, again, this is why I'm happy to have you on, because there's a lot to it, and you don't really think about it. The only thing I ever understood from the assessor's office is if you don't have the assessor, you don't know the value of the properties, so the town doesn't know what to charge. But there's way more to it than that.
Yes.
I mean, when it comes to new properties, old properties, depreciation, additions.
Oh yeah,
you know.
it's very complex, and it is very interesting. And just like anything, the laws are always changing, the requirements are always changing. For the assessors, and what you need to follow. So we're always up on different things. So
yeah, what are some of the big changes that have happened in the last couple of years, or have there been any, say, from the state, any major changes that have either made the town more money or less money? I mean, you mentioned the one where you can charge that from completion on the occupancy
yeah,
date.
that's supplemental assessment. I think it's more so with exemptions and particular dates of things. They've tried to make things more consistent now. One of the things, too, with those chapter land programs that I mentioned, there was a lot of inconsistencies within those 3 different programs. So there have been changes to those laws to make things more consistent in that. I don't say anything major or that's caused us to, really have implications in how we do our job. It's just, I think, the little things,
So just fine-tuning basically at this point, making sure everything's kind of very interesting. So it's safe to say that without the assessors, town would have no idea what to charge. So everybody could be paying willy-nilly. I guess in terms of the historical aspect of the assessing department, when did that first start? Was that, from when the town was incorporated, were they doing this? Or has it kind of been added and evolved as the years have gone on?
Yeah.
I guess how did that work?
Well, I think, from what I understand from years and years and years ago, I mean, and everything was done by hand, and it probably was more willy-nilly kind of thing. And it would be, well, you'd see things, and even that too, I guess you can still charge for them too, like animals and things like that.
Right.
So if you go back in a lot of the old assessment lists, you sometimes see things like that.
They're fascinating. Yeah,
so it's interesting, but so I don't know. It is crazy and how things just evolved over time. And then I think, I'm not entirely sure when the state really got involved with the assessing officials, but having them oversee everything that we do too, I think just is a good checks and balances.
Oh, okay.
And we're all required to, take courses. I'm a certified assessor. Our board members need to take a course.
Oh, really?
And,
that's interesting.
Yes. So I think that's one of the things people don't realize. If you wanted to be part of the Board of Assessors, you do have to take a course because you need to be certified, in what you're doing.
Okay.
So
you don't just wake up one morning and be like, I want to be an assessor or on the Board of Assessors. This is something you have to know about. Well, yes,
and you have to, get involved and take a course, and it's a classification training workshop about the tax rate and things like that. So, they make sure the assessing organization, it's a professional organization, and then they are looking to get us more involved too in the international assessing organization too. They offer a lot of classes and, to maintain our certification and stuff too. So
interesting.
So it is very interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I never thought I was going to be one day, I'm going to become an assessor. It's something, I just fell into, and went forward, got my certification, and I enjoy it. And, every day can be something different that you're dealing with.
So this wasn't your dream job when you were 5? Like, I want to be an assessor,
No, it wasn't. Actually, I wanted to be...
She sounds just like that, too, at 5, right?
No, I wanted to be a marine biologist.
Oh, really?
Actually,
Okay.
when I was real young.
Oh, this is a total switch from that.
Total switch,
Boy,
yes,
that's yeah. So if I wanted to, because there are elections coming up, I forget if the assessors are on there. In fact, I can look real quick.
We do, yes.
You have one, right?
Yep,
yeah,
we do.
You do have one. If I wanted to be on the board of assessors, say, where would I start? What would be the first thing I would do? Where would I go to find out about these certifications, and then who do I talk to say, like, I would like to try this? And
yes. Well, you don't need to have the certification prior to becoming a board member.
Oh, okay.
So if you do get elected to the board of assessors, they give you, it may be 2 years. I'm not positive. So,
okay.
Give you time, because depending on when a course would be available, or there may be an online version of the course that you need to take. So it's not a prerequisite to be a board member, but you have to do it within a certain period of time with being on the board.
Oh, okay. All right. So that's some good info. So if you're interested in running for that single seat that's coming up, then that would be how you would do it. Very interesting. All right. I think we've learned a lot today. My brain is spinning a little bit trying to keep up with all this. Lauren, I thank you very much for your time. I know you're a busy lady. You have tons of inspections that you've been doing.
Yes.
And she even scheduled all her inspections around this show so that she could come on here, which is awesome. So I appreciate that. You're always welcome to come on again. Anytime you have anything you want to talk about, just let me know, and you can come on and chat about whatever. And so folks know, if you were worried about the inspector coming to your house, that has wrapped up, and you're just doing callbacks now. So anybody who got a phone number, if you call back the assessor's department, which it seems like not as many people do.
And I would be the one coming out to do the inspection.
Okay. And you come out with a nice snazzy ID, so people know who you are.
I did, and someone asked me for it the other day, so I wear it when I go out. And I'm glad that we do have them, because that was an issue I was having prior to having it. People would ask, and you didn't have it. So, and I feel more comfortable having it when I'm out there.
Excellent, good. So Lauren would be coming to your house, and again, this is I can't stress it. We can't stress it enough. Like, you actually could reduce your tax rate if you haven't done anything. If you've got something to hide, there's people out there like that. We've all done it. Maybe you don't want to let them in, but if you don't, then it's a good idea to let the inspector come in, or let you come in and just do your inspection, because you could pay less.
Yes.
If you pull the pool down.
We're not always the bad guys.
No, I'm telling you right now, I'm running home to pull down the pool that we have. I'm getting rid of that thing. We've been wanting to get rid of it anyways, but I didn't realize I was paying.
Right. If you're being assessed for it, why pay tax on it if it's not, functional, usable, what have you?
Exactly. Right. Yeah, you could save some. And on the flip side, maybe your house is depreciating in terms of the stuff that you haven't done any work for a while, changed windows and so on and so forth. That all can lend to saving a little bit on your tax money, and maybe put a little bit back in your pocket so you could do those renovations, and then obviously taxes will go back up. It's a catch-22.
Yes, it's a never-ending cycle.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate it. You're welcome. And don't go anywhere. I'm going to take a really quick break, and I just want to go back over all this stuff that's going on in town really quickly. So stick with me for just a minute, and we'll be right back. See you in a minute. Oop, hang on. Wrong camera. Boy, I'm terrible with my cameras today. There we go. All right, I am back, and like I said, I wanted to just throw a bunch of information at you in terms of stuff that's coming up in the next couple weeks and months, so you can mark your calendars. If there's anything that interests you, like I said, mark your calendars. Elections are coming up, so if you are interested in running for one of the many offices, there's a whole bunch of seats that are up for election, one on selectmen, one on assessors, one on Board of Health, actually two, excuse me, will be on Board of Health because of a vacated seat, one on cemetery, two on finance, two on library trustees, one on housing, one on planning, two on school committee, and two on sewer. One of the sewer is a 2-year and one of them is a 3-year. And these all vary by how long their terms are. Most of them are 3 years, but a couple are 5 years, and there's the odd 2-year in there. So those are coming up. You have to have pulled your papers by the 22nd of March if you're interested, and you have to have them back by the 22nd, and you need 50 signatures. And those are both March, by the way, March 22nd and March 26th. So if you're interested in that, get your papers. 50 signatures shouldn't be hard, and bring them back by the 26th of March, and you can run for office. You'll be officially in. Also, we did talk about the excise a little bit, so those went out. They're due back on the 11th of March. The Shamrock Ball and the movie night done by the rec department. Shamrock Ball is on the 16th of March, and the movie night is on March 1st over at Old Town Hall. Check TyngsboroughRec.com for information on that, more details. The Rain Barrel program and the health fair, those are going to be both done at the same time on April 6th, so you'll be able to pick up your rain barrels, and it's the same day as the health fair. It's at that same location at the elementary school, so you can do that there. If you're interested in a rain barrel, they're really cool. It's a nice way to feed your garden some fresh water that doesn't come out of your well or out of if you're on any town hookup water or anything like that. I think it's like $55-ish somewhere in there, but check the GreatAmericanRainBarrel.com. I'll put it in the description as well, so you can go to it. Super cool program, and it's actually a really good deal. And you can get them in all different colors, and it's nice. It's just a nice way to go, especially if you're a gardener and you're into that, or maybe you have livestock you want to feed them their water that way. There's a lot of different things you can do with it. I mentioned the health fair on April 6th. They did. So I'm not 100% sure if they filled all the vendor spots yet, but if they were looking for a few more vendors as of the last time I mentioned this stuff a few days ago or last week. If you are a vendor that would be interested in being part of the health fair, contact the Board of Health, and you can sign up to be one of the vendors at the health fair. Also, yard waste pickup, which is the curbside pickup for town, May 10th and May 24th. Those are the 2 days that it's happening. It's usually around the same time in May. So mark your calendars for that. Also, Household Hazardous Waste Day is on June 1st. Board of Health we mentioned already. The surplus auction, actually I'm going to bring you over to the website real quick and show you what's going on. I've got the weather up at the moment, but yeah, weather, I don't know what happened last week with that little snowstorm. That was annoying, wasn't it? There we go. Okay. Yeah, actually. So right on the front page of tyngsboroughma.gov, you'll see right in the middle there the news and highlights. Almost, not everything, but most everything that I tell you about comes from this website or from one of the various websites here in town, from one of our various town departments, and so on. There's quite a few of them. But I try to pull a lot from there, and then some of the information comes from other places as well, but from what people send me. But if you're ever wondering what's going on in town as far as governmental stuff, check the website. There's usually, it's always posted, or should always be posted. So I mentioned the surplus auctions happening. There's just a few vehicles that are up for grabs on that. There's a number of jobs open. So I mentioned the sewer department's got a job open. There's a vacancy on the Board of Health. That's not really a job, but there's a vacancy on the Board of Health. There's also a job posting in the library that's happening. I thought there was one more. Yeah, I think there was one more. But yeah, so there's a few jobs that are open. If you are interested in a job here at the town of Tyngsborough, it's a nice place to work. I'll tell you right now, it's really cool. I enjoy it. Definitely like my job anyways. Let's see. Oh, let me get back to the rest of this stuff. So yeah, there's a few things there. Oh, you know what? I'll mention this real quick too while I have this up. The Master Plan Committee is doing another visioning session. So this is the second of 4 that they're going to be doing, the big public visioning sessions. This one is specific on what were they going over? Land use and infrastructure, I think. Yeah, they're just basically doing those few subjects. So that is on March 13 from 7 to 9 p.m. over at Old Town Hall. If you are interested in going to that, this is going to be you have to attend type of event. We're not going to broadcast it because it just doesn't work. Unfortunately, there's really not much to see. You kind of have to be there to partake in the event itself. So just mark your calendars if you're interested in going that March 13th from 7 to 9 p.m. 10 Kendall Road, which is Old Town Hall, and they'll have the meeting there. But I will be publicizing that, obviously, like I'm doing now. And we'll have some of the folks from the Master Plan Committee on. Again, I talked to one of them the other day, and they would definitely like to come back on and chat about what they're doing, some updates, basically, how things have been going, and where things stand as it is right now. So definitely an important project for town of Tyngsborough, and something that will guide the town for the next decade, give or take a few years. Because this will basically guide administration on how to go forward with some of the development and so on. So it's a big project. It's a very important project. It's something that every town, city and town does. They have the assistance of NEMCOG, the North Middlesex Council of Governments, I think it is. So it's a really it's well done. They do a good job, and you'll end up with a nice master plan at the end of this with all of basically the town's hopes and dreams, like what they want to see happen in town and so on. So very cool stuff. So if you're interested in that, mark your calendars. March 13 at Old Town Hall. So, and then lastly, what else did we have I wanted to mention to you? Oh, I just have a little information. I don't have all the details on this yet, but it's not till April, so not a big deal. I will get them as soon as get them to you as soon as I get them. But they're going to be doing an e-recycle event. The Girl Scout Troop 6916 and Scout USA Troop 46. I think that's formerly the Boy Scouts. They're doing an e-recycle event over at, well, actually, I don't know where exactly. I'm thinking this is at the health fair, because that was where it's on the same day as the health fair. So I'm assuming maybe that's where it's happening. But I will let you know as soon as I figure that out. So don't quote me on that just yet. Also, the Sherburne Trails, Sherburne Nature Center trails have all been remarked. So if that is something that you enjoy doing, hiking in the woods, walking out in the nice trail systems that we have here in town, Sherburne has been redone, so it'll be much more easy to navigate. They're working on some new maps to make it a little more easy as well, but it's all been remarked with those nice little markers on the trees, so you can easily navigate, get through, and not get lost. It's not a massive property, but it's big enough that you can still get lost. I definitely have, that's for sure. I didn't know where I was for a few minutes, but yeah, you figure it out pretty quickly, but even still, it's not fun when you get lost. You end up in somebody's backyard or on a street or whatever. So that's all been redone. Also, the Winslow reunion on May 4th of this year. If you did go to school at the Winslow School in town, they're doing this reunion on May 4th. They're looking for photos, anything you have from the Winslow School, artifacts and so on and so forth. Mostly photographs, so I think that's what most people have. But if you have any of those things, talk to Ashley Makovich. She's kind of heading that up, and you can get in touch with them through Facebook. Just search Tyngsborough Historical Commission on Facebook, and they'll come right up. And you can contact them through there. You can also contact them through Town Hall. Warren Algrove and the number of other folks who are on that commission do a lot of work. They work really hard, and they've been working hard on this, trying to make this a really good event for everybody here in town. So that's really cool. Really cool to see that happening. Also, just kind of a side thing from me, we are turning on the town's education channel finally. As some of you might know, I'll explain this quickly, but Tyngsborough has PEG Access, and that's why I'm here, basically. PEG Access is the 3 channels that the cable carriers, give to the town to put out their government education and public access programming. So that's what PEG stands for, public education and government. So those are the 3 channels. Most all the towns around us have all their channels activated for a number of years. Some of ours hadn't been activated, so we're turning those back on. Finally, we've got that going. So we'll have the Verizon side of education channel turned on, and we'll actually have all 3 channels now finally turned on the Verizon side. We're still only operating on one on Comcast, but I'm working with them now. I've been in contact with them, so hopefully we can get that resolved sooner rather than later, so that Comcast subscribers can watch all of our programming on that side of the spectrum. So very cool stuff. That's happening Tuesday. This will give the town, the schools, Tyngsborough schools, their own channel to put out their meetings, so they can go live with their meetings and whatever other content they decide to produce. Crossing the Bridge is one of the shows. There's a few little programs that they're doing. There's some stuff out of the elementary school that they're doing as well. So there's a lot of really cool stuff coming out of the schools. School sports, school plays, all that fun stuff will all get populated onto the town's education channel, as well as whatever other educational content that we find that is interesting and we think you guys might enjoy. Stuff from NASA, lessons and science shows, and whatever we can find that's we're able to play, because not all of it's in the public domain, so it can't be the copywritten material, obviously. As much as we'd like to play some of that stuff because there's some really interesting material there. But anyways, you'll be able to watch all that stuff on the education channel on Verizon, and soon enough, like I said, we'll be on Comcast as well. So we're just working with them to get all the details ironed out. But they will be turning that on Tuesday, so I'm very excited about that. That's been a long project coming. Yeah. Very cool. Very exciting. So that's about all I have for today, folks. It's a beautiful day outside. I'm going to check the high-tech weather center, and yes, it is sunny and shining. I heard birds singing this morning. That is a good sign, even though it's only February. Let's hope it stays that way. There is a bit of weather coming our way in the next couple days. Unfortunately, over the weekend again. Hooray. Thank you, Mother Nature. Appreciate that. Yeah, whatever it is. It's New England. We just deal with it, right? It's not a big deal. Here, I'll bring up the weather real quick so you can take a look. If you haven't seen already, the highs were going up, actually. We were up supposed to be at the 40 today, which is nice, and then 40 tomorrow. And then tomorrow night into Sunday is a snow ice event. We've had a ton of these snow ice events. I'm really tired of them, to be honest. I'd rather just straight snow myself. But anyways, so yes, this is supposed to be a snow ice event. So just keep that in mind. Get your rock salt and sand ready. Don't forget that you can get sand and salt mix free over at the Tyngsborough Highway Department on Kendall Road, 89 Kendall Road. At the Tyngsborough Highway Department, when you drive in the driveway there, it's got the big plow in the front. You can't miss it. Big plow on the front there on the left. When you go in the driveway, hang a right, and there's a shed right there on your right side. Just bring a bucket with you. I think there's a shovel out there, but it might help to bring a shovel with you anyways, just in case. But you can take as much as you want and use it to salt and sand your walkways, driveways, whatever you have whatever you have to sand and salt, whatever's slippery. So yeah, make use of that because, excuse me, with all of these ice events, things have been very slippery. My yard is absolutely just coated in ice. It's ridiculous. So make use of that stuff. It's free. It's there for you as a resident of the town of Tyngsborough, and they do try to keep that full as much as they can. So yeah, grab some of that, especially with all this, with more ice coming. We love this stuff. Not really. I'm kidding. So yeah, otherwise it's going to be kind of nice. It's going to get cold, I guess. Looks like beginning of next week. So back down to the 30s and then in the 20s again. Hooray. But it's still winter. It's only February, so we have some time to go. As always, guys, if you have any questions, don't be afraid to email me, sbrogan@tyngsboroughma.gov. That's how actually I get a good bit of information, believe it or not just the websites. I mentioned that earlier, but I get some information from there as well. One of those is that e-recycle day that the Girl Scouts and the Boy Scouts are putting together. So yeah, send me an email, sbrogan@tyngsboroughma.gov, or you can send messages through Facebook, however you want to reach out to me, whatever works best for you. You can call here at Town Hall if you want to do that too. If you ever have questions for anybody specific in a department, call Town Hall, 649-2300. These guys are all really happy to help you and answer your questions, just like we had Assessor Lauren Wolfschool on. Always happy to answer questions and give you information. And it can work in your favor. Having that inspector come through for the inspections can definitely work in your favor. You could end up paying less on your taxes. Obviously, you could end up paying more on your taxes too, but hey, it is what it is, right? So yeah, don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, all that stuff that happens on Facebook and YouTube. We appreciate it if you are a YouTuber or if you like to watch on YouTube. I've been working on the mouth syncing. It's been frustrating me. I can't seem to get it quite right. I'm working on it. I'm still working on it, but I'll figure it out at some point. I'm going to check this one today. I've got some other settings going, so we'll see if that actually fixes it. But subscribe on that page. I'd love to see more people following on YouTube. I don't know how long the Facebook or how stable the Facebook piece is. They've been making some changes to their video stuff as of late, which has changed the way I have to do some of my stuff. That's why it's actually not been going directly to my Tyngsborough TV Facebook page. It's actually had to go through my personal page, which then requires me to share it to all the others, which is fine, but it doesn't give me quite the same effect. So they've made some changes. So stability there is questionable on Facebook. But if you are on YouTube, it's a great way to watch. It's very easy to watch on your TV at home on YouTube. If you have an Apple TV or a Roku or just a smart TV in general, you can watch all those programs on YouTube right up on your big TV. So you're not having to watch it on a small screen, which is always nice. You don't have to go cross-eyed staring at your screen. But yeah, so check us out on YouTube. Check us out on Facebook. Don't forget to share and subscribe and comment on those two pages. And on the Facebook stuff, if you do watch there, I appreciate everybody watching, by the way. Thank you very much for everybody who tunes in. I've had a number of people tune in today. If you do watch on Facebook, same thing. Feel free to chime in, ask questions, comment, whatever. But like, comment, and share and that helps us to beat Facebook's algorithms the way they work. They want you to pay for these services, which I get. They're a business like anybody else. But that said, if you want to kind of get around, we try to get around that a little bit because I personally, I don't think you should have to pay for Facebook. I think it's a whatever. I won't talk about that. But like, comment, and share because it does beat the algorithms. It helps it to show up more in your feeds. That's the kicker on this one. If you don't interact with the page, you don't see our posts as they come up. And the majority of the time I'm posting things that are fairly important. Sometimes it's fluff and just fun, but a lot of times it's fairly important information, school closings or whatever the case may be, whatever's going on here in town, stuff about inspections and job openings and so on and so forth. If you interact with the page, you'll see that in your threads, and if you share it, it'll help other people see it, other community members, so it just helps to get that information out that much further. Of course, there's all the traditional avenues that people can get information. Some of it is put in the Lowell Sun. It's just the meetings that are coming up for the most part. Or if some big thing happens, they'll do a write-up about it. Obviously, you can call Town Hall. You can go on the website and see what meetings are coming up. On that note, if you do want to keep up with what's going on with town government, go to our town calendar. Actually, I'll show you that right now. Here, let me go to the website. I will show you how to do this. If you want to keep up with the meetings and you want to know what's coming up, go to the website, right on the front page, right side, meetings and events, that little plus symbol next to Google Calendar, you can have that added to your calendar, your personal calendar, and you can toggle it on and off, which is always nice. So it's a nice way to keep up with what's going on in town. Thank you, John, for watching. I appreciate it. Like I said, thanks to everybody for watching. Don't forget, you can watch this after the fact if you did want to watch this again. If you feel like listening to me some more, you could always watch it later on Facebook because it lives there forever as long as Facebook exists. We also take and post this on our video on demand at tyngsboroughma.gov, so you can watch it there, and we replay this stuff on the channels here, Comcast 8, Verizon 29, and wherever else we decide to pepper it in on some of the other channels as well. So again, thanks everybody for watching. Hope you guys have a good day. Have a great weekend. Stay warm, stay dry. Watch out for the ice and rain and whatever that's going to be on Saturday, Sunday. That's all I got, folks. Take it easy. Have a good one. I will see you next time.